Well, here it is, June 18th, 2017, Father's Day, and I decided to get up this morning and take a ride out in the Everglades. So I just arrived at this place I've ridden a few times. I actually saw this place and discovered it from the internet folks, Florida Outdoors Adventure. So thanks for introducing me to this. I've never seen anybody out here on a motorcycle yet. I'm sure there must be plenty. But in any event, I just switched my bike into enduro mode, and I'm going to leave the camera going for the whole ride, maybe talk a little bit. We are, as I said, out in the Florida Everglades. We are due west of Fort Lauderdale right now, kind of 595 out, and then 75, and then off of 27 here. This is just right off of 27. It's a pretty good ride. I rode it a couple of times last month, and it was dry, no water, which was a little unusual. Hadn't rained in a while, and now it's rained a lot. So I'll be curious to see. It actually rained a little bit this morning, not much. I don't know if it rained out here yesterday. It got cloudy at my place, but didn't rain. I live pretty far inland, pretty much right by the beach, so could do a whole lot of different things out here. So when you come off of here, the first, I don't know, about 4+ miles is still pavement. You see the canal out there, birds. The last time I rode this, like I say, last month, saw a lot of gators. More gators on that one ride than I've seen probably in the 7 or 8 times that I've done this ride. So we'll see if we see any gators today. I'm sure we'll see some. per emergency order, Everglades, Francis, closed to public access through traffic only. Well, I am going through. Huh. Well, we'll see what happens. So you see there's a little bit of water on the ground. I don't know why this would be closed to anybody. Kind of suck. So I'm going to Clewiston, so I am through traffic. I kind of get that. Closed to public, but it's okay for through access. I don't know what that means, but whatever. There are usually a fair amount of rangers out here, so gotta be careful. So yeah, here. Anyway, see the other thing I was going to mention is that last year these roads seemed a little rougher, and when I rode it a couple times last month, the roads seemed considerably smoother. I kind of wondered. That's a baby gator right there. I didn't even see that. That was a piece of trash till I got right down on him. That was kind of cool. I'm not sure what this does here. It must be a pump station. It looks like a couple canals come together right here. This is also kind of a dividing point if you want to take off on Indian land. There's some Indian land here that you can jump off. See, that one says it's closed too. I'm not sure what else I'm going to find up here. Now this, I saw most of the gators up here on this northernmost portion. So we actually were going westbound on that prior canal, and now we're going pretty much northbound, and north by northwest, but mostly north. There's a truck up here. Doesn't look like a ranger, so that's good. I'm not the only intruder. Let's see if I can take this stuff down to the right. I'll let this guy come through. Kind of looks like through. I've never seen any. Well, that's a little muddy. I've never seen anybody with a trailer come through here. That's a first. So you can see how far away the water is from this road. But like I said, when I came through here last week, if I was a couple hundred yards away, the gators would just run for cover. I mean, you barely see their heads, and they just would go under. A couple times I'd stop to wait for them to surface again, and they'd really stay down. So it's actually more dry than I thought it would be, drier than I thought it would be so far. I don't speak too soon here. But it is a little bit muddy. You get up on this, you can tell water's been sitting for a while, because when I get on the edges here where I think I should be able to drive right through, and it's actually a little muddy. These bikes, this bike I'm on right now is a BMW R1200 GS Adventure bike at the GSA water cooler. It's a 2016. And I've got the Hide Now tires on it. I switched those out pretty much right after I bought it. I barely rode with the stock tires. And the rear tire I love. The front tire, when it comes to this kind of riding, I love it. On the street, it makes a ton of noise. You can actually hear it singing a little bit probably right now on this harder pack. But I must say that when I rode this with the old tires, if I came up on some gravel or whatever, the front end would, couldn't find its way. It would just kind of wander around a little bit. When I put this tire on, man, it just wants to center up on off-road stuff. So I've been doing a fair amount of off-road. I went out with my buddies Scott and Andy. We did New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, did some back roads routes, the BDR routes, and was really glad. I trailered my bike out there to New Mexico. My buddy Andy lives in New Mexico, and Scott came out from California. We're all originally from California, it's spread out now. Work kind of took us all over the place. There's a gator right there, it's laying right in the middle. So, looking at the gators, got all this mud here kind of making me wander around. Well, so where I was going with that is these big bikes, 500 pounds and change or whatever. We're used to motocross bikes. We grew up racing motocross. So these are kind of old man bikes, but the one thing that you kind of forget when you're riding sometimes is how much they weigh. Motocross, it was always lean back and gas it. You get in trouble, speed is your friend. Lean back and gas it. On these bikes, you can lean back and gas it, but they weigh so much you might be able to lighten the front end a tiny bit, but you ain't going to get it off the ground. I mean, maybe in some circumstances you can probably, but in most circumstances where you need it, like in mud or something, you're going to throttle up and it's going to spin the back and the front's going to stay planted. But it's part of the game here. Let's see, let's take this one to the left. Well, that was a little muddy. Yeah, there too. Some mud on these things, yeah. So as we learned on the last one, we kind of get a good joke out of it. My buddy Scott is insistent that he feels more passionately than Andy and I that we've got to stay out of sand. We took these bikes in some deep sand and it didn't work out very well. But what Scott doesn't seem to realize is Andy and I feel exactly the same as him. I mean, we'll do it, but we don't like it. If I can avoid deep sand on these bikes, I'll avoid it like the plague. Same old same on the bikes we used to ride, lean back and gas it. But on these bikes, it doesn't do a whole lot. It's still a huge, nearly 600-pound bike, especially when you have them loaded down like on this bike. I have my panniers on, I say that right, and I have, you know, some stuff to patch my tires if I get a flat tire or whatever, and I have stuff, and so the bike weighs a few pounds. Oh boy, that was muddy. Probably ought to go a little slower through here. See, lean back and gas it. It helps. It's definitely muddy. So this is definitely been, the water's been out here. But again, even with all that, it's still, you can just kind of, I don't know if you can get a sensation through the camera, but you know, as soon as the bike hits the mud, you can almost hear it bog down. I mean, it's, you know, big heavy bike, just kind of sinks right into it. And the bad thing too is when you start getting into that, I can't look in the canal quite as much either, which is a bummer. It's not like that standing water out there. I wonder how many gators cross the road here. I've never seen this road closed, by the way. That sign about the road being closed, I don't know what that's all about. Never seen that before. I don't have any idea what would cause them to want to close the road. So maybe when I get back home, I'll see if I can look it up on the internet and read it. Alright, we'll see what happens here. Lean back and gas it, as always. And this bike has Enduro and Enduro Pro mode. And what that basically means is it kind of gives you control over throttle and wheel spin and stuff like that. My buddy Andy was telling me one time he's got a Super Tenere S10, Yamaha S10, and I guess they have the same kinds of things, and he forgot to turn his into the off-road mode, whatever it's called on that bike, and he got into some sand and he started gassing it, and the bike just continued to slow down, and eventually almost come to a stop until he got out of the sand. And what happened is it won't let the bike wheel spin. It's protecting you, like for street riding, and but it caused a problem off-road. So I myself have come out here once or twice and forgotten to put it in enduro mode. There's not much sand or mud, but what got me to notice, it also changes the suspension dynamic. You'd ride down this and it would be really stiff. It's like, what the heck? It's like riding on rocks. And then I realized, I still have it in road mode. So, anyway. But that's not going to get you hurt. It's the lack of wheel spin that's going to get you hurt if you don't have the ability to have some freedom to wheel spin. Trying to find the drier parts of this. So again, not doing a great job. Actually more focused on the road. This reminds me of Tail of the Dragon a little bit, where they tell you don't take in the sights, just watch the road. You're constantly transitioning from one turn to the other. Of course, on a Harley, if you follow the speed limit on Tail of the Dragon's only, I think, 30 or 35 miles an hour. It's pretty slow. And so if you're on a Harley and you're following the speed limit, which we did, we were out there on a weekend, a Saturday, and there were cops everywhere, radar, and it is really, even on a Harley, it's easy to get over the speed limit, just cruising. But even on a Harley, you're definitely transitioning from one turn to the next, and you want to keep your eyes on the road. Got lucky, as a matter of fact, on that, where nobody's coming down behind us. I expected all the time we're going to have bikes and cars and whatever coming down on us, but we really didn't. for whatever reason, we must have picked our timing really well. Just the occasional car or whatever. I mean, the car is definitely, the bikes can get by you nice and easy, but the cars can't. The bikes I wouldn't, they're quicker, but they're, God damn it, I almost missed that rock. So I did miss it, but I thought I was going to hit it for a second. The cars are certainly quick and everything, but you're not allowed to cross the line anywhere, and there's really no place to pull over. You can't let people by. So you kind of, if you get up on slower traffic, you're kind of screwed. Tail of dragon. I mean, everybody seems to make it work. Of course, everybody swore up and down that we would never see tractor trailer or motorhome or anything like that on the Tail of Dragon. And Joe and I we went through the Tail of Dragon and we're coming back towards Robbinsville, and lo and behold, here comes an 18-wheeler coming right at us. That was a wake-up call. But luckily, there were a few bikes out in front that were waving at us. We couldn't figure out at first what they were waving at. Oh, they got him a snake. And we got closer, we realized that big 18-wheeler came ripping around the corner. What he was yelling. Of course, the 18-wheeler's half in our lane. There's no way you could keep that on your own side. Well, I have not done a very good job of looking for gators. We've seen some pretty good wildlife. Saw the little gator. Saw the hawk with his snake. Saw a few gators. I mean, we got a little ways to go and all. But I probably ought to. It isn't that I'm going too fast, just the mud and stuff. I feel like I need to keep my eye on what I'm doing here. Lest the next thing you see in the film is me going down, which I don't want that to happen, because lifting this bike up, not much fun. Yes, I have lifted it up a couple times. Not out here. Never fallen down out here. The only time I dropped this bike, it was all in the same place. Dropped it, well, I take it back. I dropped it one time on our Utah trip. Came around a corner, all these kind of like boulders, and I was kind of leading the three of us. And I picked a line real quick as I came around the corner, like first gear, second gear. And as I came into it, the bike, kind of bobbled front and rear a little bit. No big deal, just kind of staying on the gas a little bit. But unfortunately, as it bobbled, it slowed way down, which also wasn't much of a problem. But as I came to a stop, put my left foot down, and there was nothing there. It was kind of on top of a boulder. There's no place to put my foot to hold the bike, and so it's kind of like a slow timber. And by the time the bike got to about 45 degrees over, I finally could touch the ground. But by then it was too late. It had its momentum and it was going down, and that was that. And unfortunately, I broke my clutch lever on that. It broke right where it's supposed to break, right at that design fatigue point. So that was great. That was the stock BMW lever. But I did not have these protectors right here at the time. And needless to say, that was one of my first purchases after that. I bought these adjustable levers. That kind of looks like that's not a Ranger there, but it looks like it might be. Bought these little levers here. They're adjustable. Got on Amazon. They took forever to get here. You will not be able to tell in the video, but what I did is I bought 2 sets of them. They were very inexpensive. Very inexpensive. I don't remember what they're like, $10 a pair or something. Ridiculously inexpensive. They're knockoffs for a better brand, but I will say they're aluminum, and the quality seemed great on them. But in any event, what I did is I bought 1 set of regular levers with the fatigue point. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing there, the fatigue point. And then I bought shorty levers. So my brake lever, I've got a shorty lever because I usually only grab it with 1 or 2 fingers. Clutch side, I stuck with the full lever. This bike, you don't need the clutch to shift. Once you get going, you can actually shift gears without the clutch. It's a great, when I bought the bike, I thought it would be a great feature, and it is a great feature. Unfortunately, I don't use it. Just the way I'm wired, I just can't seem to shift without using I just grew up riding bikes that way, and it's just hard for me to master that one. Oops, I don't think I can barely get off the side of the road here. Yeah, well, maybe I get off over here. So I use the clutch. It's pretty rare for me to shift without the clutch, which is to say that I just don't do it. Kind of cool if I've done it a couple times when I'm like adjusting doing something, my visor, have to touch something, or so I might have to upshift or downshift. But I mean, as far as just regular drive, and matter of practice, I just don't do it. I don't know why. I just can't seem to do it. A part of it too feels like if I start doing, I'll get on my Harley and start trying to shift. When I first got this bike, when I first got the Harley, everything was different. It's got floorboards instead of foot pegs. Your feet go out in front of you. I had never shifted with a heel shifter. The salesman, Al, really nice guy, out at the Fort Lauderdale Harley dealer, out on 595 out west there. I haven't seen him around. I don't even know if he's working there anymore. They're under new ownership. But in any event, he was asking me if I'd ever use a heel shifter, and I said no. And he said, "You're going to love it." And he's right. It's cool. I mean, I wouldn't have it for a bike like this, but for the Harley, yeah, how do you live without it? But it's kind of funny because sometimes I'll get on this bike and then I'll jump on the Harley and forget it's there, and I'll start trying to use my toe to upshift, and this is always, then I have to stop myself and realize, oh crap, no, I gotta use the heel shifter. This is the bridge where I saw the ammo on it, and it always has a lot of water here. So we just kind of have to breathe the deep and gas. And you see some ammo there, some shotgun shells. Right out here in the middle is where I saw those shells. Now, I will say that is a first. I've never seen anybody standing on that bridge fishing. It's a pretty nice car to be down here too. Usually I see these ratty old pickups with, kind of the people that you really don't want to stop and talk to, but that guy. Well, a couple of them look like they're out enjoying Father's Day, and they took the time to get off-road to do it. All right, good for them. So we are, I'm sure we're more than halfway into the off-road portion here, from where that bridge represents. I'm trying to remember. So this is where I saw a lot of the gators. We'll see any water for a while, so keep our eye out here. So if we see any that are worth stopping for. Since I left my house is 73 miles. It takes up roughly 50 miles just to get to the off-road portion of this ride from my house. Like I said, we're pretty much going northbound now. Even after we did that little tweak through the bridge, it is kind of like a little S, and going pretty much the same direction. Clewiston is, the city of Clewiston is about 11 o'clock to us, kind of out this way. This would dump us off just a little bit east of Clewiston, get on the highway, and go westbound a little bit to get to Clewiston. Go there. If the battery in this thing lasts long enough, I'll drive you right to the parking lot of the place I was talking about that the motorcycle guys typically go for lunch. I'm always seeing a few Harleys there anyway. Sometimes I've seen a dozen or more, sometimes just a handful. I'm curious on Father's Day how many I might see. A little gas station I usually stop at. I don't normally need to take on gas, but I stop there because it's a big tree and a nice shady place to just rest for a little bit. There's almost always some bikes there. I've never seen an off-road bike, always street bikes and almost always Harleys. Sit there and talk to them. Kind of funny when I'm on my Harley, ride up, talk to them, we all talk. When I ride up, like today, I've gone through some puddles, so I'm a little muddy. I come up on this bike all muddy to talk to them. They kind of look at me like they don't know what to think of me. Kind of back up. It's kind of funny to see these Harley guys with their vests and whatnot on and start backing up from you. You get off the bike. I don't know what I look like pulling up. I mean, to me, I look pretty civil. Climb jacket and, whatever. But on a BMW, I don't know what could possibly be threatening about an old man bike. Guy on an old man bike wearing old man clothes. I don't know about old man stuff, but I'll say comfortable. I don't care what age you are. There's nothing like having the right gear. Kind of like working on stuff. There's nothing like having the right tools. Well, I'm not seeing much in the way of gators. I am keeping an eye on the water. Kind of trying to, not only for the road, but also that if I see a gator that I don't spook them. You would think you wouldn't, but like I said, I was going down this very road and they'd be out in front of me a football field and go underwater, and then I'd stop 100 yards up and eventually see them come back up again, and they're still keeping an eye on me. It's kind of weird. Never seen gators spook that much. And of course my hunting experience, that usually leads me to believe it's hunting season or something. I mean, most of the time animals don't spook unless it's hunting season. They definitely know when they're being shot at or somebody's crosshairs. But most of the gators I saw last month were they're pretty small. Most of them, I think the biggest one I saw was probably about 6 feet, maybe 7, I don't know. They were pretty small. I would say probably closer to 5 feet. Little guys. Still going back in my mind to the little guy on the ground there. I didn't even know it was a gator when I was coming up on him. Trying to keep my eye out too and keep a wide berth of anything I see on the ground, because there might be more of them up here sunning or maybe crossing. I don't know if there's something better to eat on one side. We hunt elk or deer. They'll bed down on one side of a road, and then when it's time to get up and eat, they'll head over to the other side of the road, and you'll see them doing their thing. I don't have no clue if it's the same for gators. Getting over, maybe there's more stuff to do over here, food or whatever it is they do. But I don't see any. It is midday. I want to say I got an earlier start last week, and I certainly saw more of them going up than I did coming back. But I just don't know that much about gators. I don't know if they're more of a morning animal or if they don't care. My experience has been they don't. We're out here in the Everglades. I've lived here since the early 90s. I don't spend a whole lot of time out here, but I spent a fair amount of time in the Everglades. My kids were younger. We do a lot of camping out here. Various parts, and we're accustomed to seeing gators at any time of the day. It could be noon, could be 4 o'clock, could be 9 o'clock in the morning. So my experience is they don't care. But I don't see any. Saw some there in the beginning. I would say in a normal, on these rides, if I see 4 or 5 gators in the whole ride, that's about normal. I'd say that one ride last month, I probably saw a couple dozen. Easy couple dozen. The other thing is that usually this part of the ride is where I see more gators. This guy's some worker. It's interesting on a day like today. So we got to cross over to the other side here. This is a good place to do it. Yeah, you get a pretty good look down the canal. What happens is the road that we're on, I'll show you up here, the one that we were on that side, on the west side, it's going to end up here. So we got to get over to this side, across the railroad tracks here. We'll have to ride on this east side for a while, and then we'll cross back over when the road goes, it starts up again, commences on the west side. Things out in the middle, which is a little unusual. I don't normally see that either, more than normal. There's been a lot of rain though this last month. We've had just torrential downpours. It's hard for me to tell if that would affect the level of the water in this canal. I don't know. I mean, the water definitely looks nice and high in it right now, but it's hard. I don't remember. Can't tell if it was higher than before or not. I'm trying to stay close so we can watch the water, but I don't want to get whacked by oncoming traffic either. This is right around in here where I actually stopped, got a couple pretty good pictures of gators last month. This area. Just don't see any though. Nice day for a ride anyway. Still says 86 degrees. We're going 53 miles an hour. And definitely the road is considerably drier than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I'm starting to get hungry too. I didn't think I'd get hungry on this ride. All I brought with me is water and tea. There's plenty of places to get food up here, but I probably won't. Well, at least this video, the intent of this video, other than my incessant rambling, is to give you some idea of what this ride is. My friend Joe has never ridden off-road motorcycles. Oh, there's a gator right there. And because I like to do this, he's thinking about getting a motorcycle, but an off-road motorcycle. He has a Harley, and he's got a really nice Honda street bike too. But he's apprehensive because he thinks that maybe it just requires a skill level that he doesn't have and won't be able to acquire. You know, I was going to say at his age, but it's not like he's old. He's a couple years. I think he's a couple years younger than me. Say he's 55, 56, something like that. Real good shape though, big guy. Real good shape. And I've told him long as you ride on roads like, pretty much like the one I'm taking this video on, you're fine. Admittedly, we've hit a few spots today with a little bit of mud, which could cause a beginner to go down. You got to pick your lines carefully, and there's a gator right there. It's laying right in the middle. Yep, they're not even the least bit worried about me today. Wow, that's interesting. That significant change. Kind of wondering if them putting up the sign that the road's closed has really cut down the traffic on the road. Like I say, there's always rangers out here. I'm a little surprised we haven't run into one yet. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and cross here. There's actually another bridge up there, but this is the one I usually use. You'll see these bridges. Thank God we're on a motorcycle, because if I was on my truck, these bridges don't look like they're the sturdiest thing going. You'll see in a minute. They're all right, but anyway, I don't see any gators right here that we can stop at. So anyway, with just telling Joe, no, you're fine as long as you don't have any sand or mud or whatever. If you're on just kind of a nice, fairly level road like this one, that you'd be fine. You really enjoy yourself. And this road, while it's much drier than I thought it would be, there's been a couple places where I'm sure a beginner would either have to pick the lines more carefully than I bothered to pick mine. Obviously, I don't worry quite as much if I don't pick exactly the right line. I'm not like that going through. You can't see on the camera, but I pretty much doused all my boots and whatnot with the water. But there's nothing squirrely. The terrain was nice and firm. See if that was a gator going down, but I don't think it was. Probably a bird. So I think you'd really enjoy an adventure bike, and that's kind of the purpose of this video, is not so much what I'm saying, although you're forced to listen to it. You've got a volume button. I guess you can turn me off, which I probably would have turned me off a long time ago. But to get a good look at this road, and even though the camera can't capture all the exact imperfections in the road, the road probably looks a lot easier than it actually is, blah blah blah, but it gives you an idea of what you're going through. Oh, there's a little bit of mud right there. For the little bits of just kind of getting to that and the skill level required for stuff like that, I missed that rock, is that there hasn't been any place in this road, just small little patches, where you can't just lean back and gas it. It's not enough to see, like this one, there's really no good way, so I'll just go. That was a little bit as I say that, and I go right into the mud. There hasn't really been any place that you can't just lean back and gas it to get yourself out of it. As like I said, you can't see it on the camera, but I pretty much soaked everything. There you go. You can see all the way up to all the heads and everything. Kind of going through it, going at a speed. It doesn't seem, that's another thing, is when you're on a camera, you really can't tell the speed. Even when I'm slowed down, I'm going 25 miles an hour. My normal speed's been in the 50s. So when you hit water, even at 25, it goes everywhere. It's only water. It ain't gonna hurt anything. Alright, so let's see if we pick our line a little more carefully. So if I was him, I would lead him through something like this and probably just stay right here on the edge. And it's probably not as much of a chance for mud up here. It's going to drain out in the middle. For me, I'm going to mill around and fool around out in the middle of the road. But if I was leading somebody with lesser experience, that's the kind of line that I would pick. But part of the fun for somebody with a little bit of experience, if you're intermediate level or, whatever, you have a comfort level, then it's more fun to kind of ride down the middle and work with whatever cards you're being dealt. That's part of the fun. Of course, I'm hitting every single pothole. I would prefer to avoid them. Well, I will say we've seen our fair amount of cars. Now, that looks like a Ranger truck. They usually have like these silverish, greenish trucks. Let's see, it stopped though, and I see somebody walking, so I'm going to guess it's not. And as I get closer, it definitely does not look like a Ranger truck. So that's good. These guys have some big old fishing poles up here. Miles an hour. How long that sign's been there? I'll give it its due recognition. So we should be coming to the end of the dirt road here pretty soon. I am now 85 miles from home. This ride for me is about, I think it's like 205 miles round trip, something like that. I was going to see if I could do this without stopping for gas. I'm just slightly above half a tank right now. It says my range is 204 miles. So that should be no problem getting home. I'll be stopped within 20 miles, and it's only approximately 100 miles to get home. So, it should be fine. The other thing you can't really see on a bike, or probably feel through the cameras, a lot of times when bike's so heavy, when I'm hitting the brakes, you know, coming up on stuff here at 50 or 60 miles an hour, and I want to slow down to this nice buzzer picture. The rear brake tends to either lock up or certainly is going slower than the bike is. I'm pretty ginger about how I step on the rear brake on the dirt. It's not squirrely from a balance standpoint, but it just reminds you how heavy the bike is. You know, obviously when you're stopping, your stopping power starts with how much rubber's meeting the road. The center part of this tire, the rear tire, there's a nice big gator right there, just went under, is pretty flat. It's got like a Z pattern. It stays flat for good road riding. So when you're off-road, you go to hit the brakes, it slides a lot, which, you know, has its good benefit off-road. If I'm coming into a corner, I can, you know, again, back to the skill level, but you can bring the rear end around and point the bike where you want it. There's a little bit of body English. If you're an unskilled rider, then it might be a little unsettling. So, you know, a little slower. Don't go as fast. You know, we're going 52 right now, and probably slow it down to, you know, 40, 45, and you would feel more comfortable. And if you have to hit your brakes, you can stop and probably do so without blocking up the rear wheel. I'll probably put a camera under one day and look. It really doesn't feel like, there you go, we're off the pavement. So I'll go up here and change it back to road mode. Camera's still going, I think. So we'll go straight up to that restaurant. Matter of fact, I don't think there's much to see from here. So maybe I'll turn the camera off and I'll turn it back on when I come into the restaurant. I'm going to stop up here at the stop sign and put it back in road mode. Alright, I'll talk to you when we get close to the restaurant. Alright, here we are coming into Clewiston. Tried to get the camera on fast enough to capture the gas station that I stopped at, or that I usually stop at, but that didn't happen. Okay, so we're going to cross the water right here. We're headed westbound right now, east to west. And after we cross, you see the sign, Clewiston city limits. And after we cross the water, that's actually the restaurant up there where that big boat was parked. We'll take this Francisco. Actually, we're going to go right here, whatever this little turn off here is. And we'll turn right again right here and parallel the canal. And then there'll be a sign up here. So you can't miss it. It's not hard to find. Just after the canal, turn right. That's the signal light right behind me, so if you'd have missed that little turn off and went to the signal light, that would have been fine. Oh, it's called the Tiki Bar. That's right. So here's the sign for it right here off my right. So turn right here, and it just dead ends right into the parking lot. So it's very, very easy to find on the just on the west side of the canal. The west side of it's right on. It's actually on the water here. You'll see a little bit early, so not really any people. Maybe my clocks. I've got one of my clocks says. My clocks are off an hour. I think I never set the one on my bike. Oh, this guy's coming right out. Do not know where he's going. Nice boat though. Fishing boat right here. So that's it. That's Tiki Bar. It's pretty early. Nobody's here. Actually, that's the first time I've seen it with so few cars in it. Yeah, my motorcycle says 10:30. Look at my. Well, when I stop here, I'll look at my. Phone and see if it's the right. Come on. Ugh. These are the kinds of trucks that I'm used to seeing around here. Alright, so we'll go back out to the signal light. I'll just leave it on until I get to my gas station, which is just right up the road here. Let's see here, I still have a touch more than half a tank, so I'm not going to bother taking on gas. Although I have learned over the years, like all motorcycle riders, don't pass up an opportunity to get gas. But in this particular case, I've done this particular ride many times, and I know that I can get home with plenty of reserves. So we're heading eastbound again now, leaving town. We're going to see the sign here, Miami 88 miles, South Bay 15 miles, whatever that is. We're on the southern end of Lake Okeechobee right here with Clewiston. If you look it up on a map, you'll see it right here on the southern end of Lake Okeechobee, kind of on the southwestern end, I believe. Get radar from behind here. I don't know how much you can see in a camera here, but right down here to my right, I have a Valentine 1 radar detector, and then I have one of those, what they call it, the hard helmet assist radar detector. I have one of those in my helmet here, so it flashes, the LED flashes. Hey, there's somebody with a nice road bike over there. We'll pull in by him and see if we can chat for a minute.